I pulled 7 specific guns that used to hold value and tossed them through recalls, owner reports, and hands-on checks, so you don't end up trading cash for a paperweight. I've got the recall notices, QC receipts, and real-world reasons. Each one tanks on the resale market, no hype, just hard facts. I'm Luke from Line 45, and today I need you to watch this video so that you can see which of the guns right now would really make you regret buying. Before we dive in, do me a solid. Smash that subscribe, tap the bell, hit all the dang buttons down there. You don't gotta, but it keeps this train rolling and lets me crank out more of this wild gun talk for you all. Alright, enough of that. Let's get back to it. Ruger SR9, early production models. I'm starting with the early SR9 because the launch guns got tagged with a real safety recall, and that crushes confidence in resale. The original production run shipped with a trigger system that Ruger later retrofitted after reports showed it could fire under specific impact conditions. Ruger issued a factory upgrade program, changed the trigger to a pivoting design, and updated internal safeties. If that work wasn't done, the gun lives in the danger zone for carry, and buyers know it, so prices sag hard. Bet you've seen those listings sit. Here's how I verify one on the table. First, I clear it and check the serial against Ruger's support page or call customer service to confirm the status. Second, I look for the upgraded pivoting trigger and the telltale factory retrofit paperwork that usually follows the gun. Third, I run a basic function check at the bench with the slide off, watching sear and striker engagement while I work the trigger and reset. I'm not faking drop tests. I'm checking that the geometry looks like the updated spec and the trigger returns clean. If it's pre-upgrade or the seller can't prove the retrofit, I treat it like a parts donor or a range beater at best. If it's upgraded and documented, it's safe to run, but the stigma sticks and the market reflects that. My on-camera move is simple. I stack it next to a modern striker pistol with clean aftermarket support and show round-to-round split times, trigger weight, and consistency. The SR9 can shoot, but the recall history keeps it in the bargain bin. Kel-Tec Sub 2000 stigmatized batches. I'm putting the Sub 2000 here because certain production runs were tied to a factory barrel safety recall, and that puts a cloud over any example that hasn't been confirmed and fixed. Kel-Tec publicly offered free barrel replacements on affected guns and set up a serial checker so owners could verify status. Any rifle that missed that upgrade is a gamble. Buyers know it, and that kills demand fast. If you see a great deal sitting for weeks, that's usually why. I'm not knocking the concept. A compact 9 or 40 that folds into a backpack is slick, but a safety-flagged barrel turns a clever PCC into a wall hanger until proven updated. Here's how I screen one before money changes hands. First, I clear the carbine and read the exact model and serial number off the receiver. I run that number through Kel-Tec's recall lookup or call their support and ask if the barrel was replaced. If the seller claims it's good but has zero paperwork, I treat it like it's still pending. Next, I inspect the crown, chamber, and feed ramp for tool marks or odd wear, and I cycle dummy rounds to check feeding and extraction. I also check the sights and locking collar because loose hardware on folding carbines turns accuracy into a coin toss. If the barrel recall is done and the gun groups, cool, it's range ready. The problem is stigma and resale. A lot of buyers avoid the hassle and jump to a platform with deeper parts support and fewer questions. That's why I label unverified Sub 2000 as near worthless for most folks. You'll spend time chasing paperwork, then still take a haircut when you resell. If you already own one, get the serial checked, get the barrel swap if needed, and document it. If you're shopping, skip the mystery guns and save yourself the headache. Kel-Tec PMR 30. This one looks awesome on paper and still ends up collecting dust. No cap. 30 rounds of .22 Magnum in a featherweight pistol sounds like a cheat code, but the platform lives and dies by ammo choice and spring tuning. Kel-Tec themselves tell owners to run full-power 40-grain .22 WMR like CCI MaxiMag, and to avoid lightweight or inconsistent rimfire loads. When the gun gets picky, you see classic rimfire problems amplified in a pistol-length barrel, ignition issues, failures to extract, and nosedives when the stack isn't perfect. I've watched PMR 30 seconds run like sewing machines with hot 40-grain loads and then faceplant the moment someone drops in bargain ammo. That is not what you want in a defensive gun or a hassle-free range toy. Here's how I vet one before I call it usable. I check magazine generation and condition because PMR mags are part of the reliability equation. I look at feed lip tension, follower glide, and whether the owner has a habit of loading 30 and jamming the stack. I load 25 to 28 to keep spring pressure sensible, tap the rear of the mag to settle the column, and then hand cycle dummy rounds to feel for drag. I also inspect extractor tension and the chamber mouth for roughness that can hang up thin-walled 22 WMR brass. On the line, I run a controlled test. 2 mags of known good 40-grain loads, then a mag of mixed ammo to see what breaks. If it stumbles on recommended loads, that's a hard pass. If it only behaves with one specific brand and gets weird when dirty, it's a niche toy. Parts and springs exist, but you'll invest time tuning a gun that still won't tolerate a wide ammo variety. That reputation tanks resale because buyers want plug and play, not a science project. If you already own one, feed it premium 40 grain and keep it squeaky clean. If you're shopping, bet your money on something less finicky. Taurus PT Series. Taurus got smoked by a high-profile class action over pistols that allegedly could fire if dropped, and the fallout still drags these PT Series examples into the market today. The company agreed to a large settlement and a voluntary remedy program that covered repair, replacement, and enhanced warranties for affected models. When I flag a PT Series on the table, I do 3 concrete checks. First, I confirm the exact model and serial number and run it against the official settlement divided by recall lookup, or call Taurus support to verify whether that specific pistol was included and whether the remedy was completed. Second, I inspect the manual safety, trigger geometry, and sear engagement at the bench for any aftermarket shims or evidence of repair work that looks amateur. Third, I run a controlled function check with safe dummy rounds and cycle the action while watching sear timing and reset feel. If paperwork isn't present, assume a resale haircut is coming. Bottom line, even fixed guns carry stigma, and buyers price that in. The settlement and recall created buyer wariness that depresses resale values compared with similar non-flagged pistols, so sellers often eat a steep loss to move one. If you own a PT Series, get the serial checked, secure any factory paperwork, and document receipts for the remedy. If you're shopping, skip a mystery PT and spend the money on something with cleaner support and no recall baggage. Bet you'll save time and avoid spending more money uselessly. Sig Sauer P320 pre-upgrade pistols without the voluntary upgrade. Here's the deal with the older P320s. Early guns could discharge if dropped at a specific rear sight angle because trigger mass and sear geometry let inertia overcome the striker system. SIG rolled out a free voluntary upgrade in 2017 that swaps in a lighter, skeletonized trigger, revised sear and striker parts, and adds a mechanical disconnector. If a P320 hasn't had that work, I treat it like a liability for carry and a tough sell on the used market. No cap. How I vet one in hand. I clear the pistol, lock the slide, and check for the upgraded skeletonized trigger. Curved or flat is fine, but the upgraded unit is visibly lightened. I also look at the striker foot and sear surfaces for the revised geometry, and check for the disconnector tab when I pull the slide. If the seller says it's upgraded, I want paperwork or the return label from SIG. If there's no proof, I write down the serial and call SIG to confirm its status. I'm not doing backyard drop tests. I verify parts and provenance, then run a full function check with dummy round. On the range, I track 2 things. First, consistency of reset and no trigger bounce during aggressive slide manipulation. Second, reliability through a mixed box of 115, 124, and 147 grain loads. Upgraded guns are solid performers and will run hard if you keep them clean. The resale hit lives with the unupgraded batch. A buyer pool shrinks fast when folks know the serial hasn't been through the program, so prices sink and listings stall. If you already own a pre-upgrade P320, call SIG and get the work done. It is free, it improves safety margins, and it cleans up the stigma when you go to sell. If you are shopping, hard pass on any mystery gun without proof of upgrade. Save the headache and grab a verified unit. High Point C9 and 995 carbine. I get why folks grab these. The price is low, the warranty is lifetime, and they do go bang. But when I put them next to modern budget pistols and PCCs, the gaps show up fast. The C9 is a chunky, straight blowback pistol with a heavy slide to tame recoil, a stiff trigger, and low capacity for its size. The 995 carbine runs on the same style mags, which keeps capacity limited and reloads slow. Ergonomics are blocky, sights are serviceable but crude, and the aftermarket is tiny compared to Glock, SIG, or Ruger ecosystems. That all adds up to guns that work, but don't scale with your skills. Now resale. The market is flooded with them, and buyers know what they are. You almost never recover your money, even if you keep it clean. People move to something with better mags, cleaner triggers, and real parts support. When I list comparable entry pistols with better support, they're gone in days. High points sit or get lowballed. That's why I tag them as functionally worthless for anyone planning to upgrade later. You'll eat the loss. Here's how I test before I call it. I check the feed ramp polish, look for extractor wear, and run mixed FMJ and defensive loads to see if it chokes. I shoot a group at 7 and 15 yards, then run a reload drill to measure the real pain of the mag system. I also clock the weight on a scale and measure trigger pull so viewers see numbers, not just feelings. If you already own one, run it until it dies and leverage that warranty. If you're shopping, spend a little more and get a platform with capacity, holsters, and parts on every shelf. SCCY CPX. SCCY's CPX line looked like a steal until reality showed up. Repeated magazine and feeding complaints, a few high-profile function reports, and the company eventually shutting its doors. That combination tanks buyer confidence fast. Recent coverage notes the company closure and the model's checkered history, so if you're eyeballing one, you need receipts, not vibes. From my hands-on checks and what the forums and reviewers keep repeating, the magazine is the usual culprit. Weak springs, rough feed lips, and inconsistent followers create stovepipes and failures to feed that haunt a lot of CPX examples. Long-form tests and range reports have shown intermittent failures across multiple runs, and plenty of owners fixed issues only after polishing mags, swapping springs, or limiting ammo choices. That makes resale tiny because buyers don't want a project gun. Practical move if you own one or are considering it. Check serial status, grab OEM mags, and test at least 200 rounds of reputable 9mm through the exact mags you'll carry, and bench inspect feed lips and follower glide before you pay. If it hiccups on a known good ammo brand, walk. If you keep one, document any fixes and keep spare OEM mags handy, because that paperwork and parts trail is what'll salvage value later. I'd rather spend a bit more upfront on a platform with solid mag support than babysit a CPX for months.